One of the most disgusting things about the Pakistani Muslim gang rape crime against humanity was and is the refusal of the usual suspects to admit it was actually happening. And this is coupled with their attempt to promote a narrative that the white British were the actual culprits. And Owen Jones, for example, is one such usual suspect, and he maintained it was a white problem and not a Pakistani Muslim problem, and he lied continuously to this end. Listen to him here.
About vulnerable white girls being targeted by British Pakistani grooming gangs. Now, that is the sort of thing you would have expected to read in BNP leaflets, and which not that long ago would actually have been condemned by Tory and Labour politicians alike. But we are in 2023 in the worst possible timeline. It's not true. It's really important to make this very, very clear. It isn't true.
And The Guardian was fully on board with those ghastly white men too, as was the Socialist Worker, of course, and even the one organisation purportedly devoted to protecting the lives of children, the NSPCC, or the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. And the reason they were all able to claim it was whites what done it rather than Pakistani Muslims was based entirely on a 2020 Home Office report, which made this claim as a headline, but made no attempt to actually back it up. So, for example, here is page 27 of their report, which states, quote, "Research on offender ethnicity is limited and tends to rely on poor quality data. It is therefore difficult to draw conclusions about differences in ethnicity of offenders, but it is likely that no one community or culture is uniquely predisposed to offending." End quote. But the report immediately follows this with, quote, "Most of the same studies showed that the majority of offenders are white." End quote, followed by, quote, "Community and cultural factors are, however, relevant to understanding and tackling offending. An approach to deterring, disrupting and preventing offending that is sensitive to the communities in which the offending occurs is needed." End quote. Did you absorb that? Sensitivity is needed to be shown not to the victims in the white community, but to those within the Pakistani community responsible for the gang rape. This is beyond belief, really, but perhaps now we understand the relevance behind the civil service Muslim network, which clearly controls the Home Office. And yes, it really does exist. And yes, it really is very powerful, leading to the Islamic-influenced Home Office report going on to say, quote, "Data was returned on approximately 2,300 possible offenders, but approximately 1,100 were excluded from analysis due to a lack of basic information. In the remaining 1,200 cases, ethnicity data was unknown for 38% of them. But where data was available, 30% of offenders were white, while 28% were Asian. Due to the amount of missing data, both basic offender information and ethnicity specifically, these figures should be treated with caution." End quote. But the usual suspects jumped onto this and exhibited no caution at all. They didn't stop to think why half of the offender reports were discounted due to a lack of basic information, or as to why 38% of the reported offenders showed no ethnicity. Well, we all know why. Of course, it was fudged. It was completely fudged, as the Casey report made quite clear. And why was it fudged? Because, as Dennis McShane, Labour MP for Rotherham, between 1994 and 2012, so brutally stated, we didn't want to rock the multicultural boat. And the result? Young, vulnerable English girls continued to be gang raped and tortured for decades, while the so-called liberal left, such as the repellent, disgusting, inhumane Owen Jones, tried to argue it was a white-on-white problem. As I say, you cannot hate the traitor political class enough. You really can't. Nor can you hate the obscene media establishment of Britain enough.